Coming up in this year's Dragon Hike and Fly video. Yo, so I'm on the way to Dragon Hike and Fly again this year, and I'm charging the car 1 hour out from the campsite, just like last year. I've sat, had dinner and watched the briefing, and I'm definitely a lot more prepared than I was last year. I've actually got a tent and a sleeping bag. Above all, I'm just looking forward to enjoying it, and hopefully my goal for this year is to get round to the finish in the 2 days. With the wind forecasted to be from the southeast for this year's Dragon, the route took us through 7 turn points along a flat triangle around 62 kilometres. The first turn point was at the top of a site called Magic. From here the track went upwind towards Skirrid. This site will be a perfect launch point to take the flight along the longest downwind leg through the River Usk Valley to Torry Foal for a top landing and a selfie, then on to the Talibont car park. Talibont, being a large flexible site, should give lots of options to head back towards the campsite to fly between the flags. Ready to start the Dragon with a 6k walk up to Magic, flying down to Skirrid as close as I can get, and then seeing how long I can fly from there. That's the key. We'll see what the day does. It's clear, it's mist free. Let's go. The start was chaotic as usual, with people packing their last minute supplies before jumping up and running in all directions.
Is that even a path this way?
I'm going back to the road, then down there. It's a starburst out the gate. The runner's heading down the road for a shortcut up to Magic. I'm in the middle somewhere. It's clear sky, birds gliding out into the valley. There's the lead pack in the distance. Made it for the first hike up the Hike and Fly. Magic is just there. The first wings head out over the valley. It's a long way to go to the next point up there though. From Magic, I took a quick glide straight down into the valley. Some gliders got some lift and went onto the back of Sugarloaf, but I wanted to stay close to the route and get walking towards Skirrid to get there for lunchtime. Awesome first flight into wind. Bunch of lift already at 10:30 AM. So packing up, long hike to Skirrid, and then see, it should be kicking off properly by the time I get there for a long flight downwind towards Talibont. Let's go, less talking, more packing and more hiking. Now I've got about 11k hike up to Skirrid. There was a rush of pilots in the air, and now I can see no one. A lot of people have gone over to the other side of the Sugarloaf, but the Sugarloaf is my arch nemesis. I've failed to launch off there so many times during the race and while flying in Wales by myself. I'm going to try and skip it this time, get a nice fast valley route right to the foot of Skirrid, 12k, 2 hours, get up there for 1 PM. Thermals will be booming. It's coming up to midday. It's time to get the sun cream on because it's going to get hot. Here we have the native Welsh alpaca. Oh. This is beautiful. What an amazing place to be. Bushwhacking time. There it is, Skirrid, in sights already. This is the perfect launching off point for a big flight today. Here we have a pilot's dream, a big dark field being worked by 5 or 6 tractors. This is going to be the thermal hotspot off the back of Skirrid. There they are, the lead pack. Let's see if they get any good thermals today. I found a shortcut up Skirrid, what I hope is a shortcut. It's a winding forestry trail. It's not marked on OS maps, but it could peter out short of the open access land at the top. So it's a gamble to see if I end up bushwhacking to get to the top. My shortcut worked. Came out of the forest, and there is the peak. Let's go. It's a brutal hike. Whew. Hey, how's it going? Made it. Now came my biggest move of the race. I took off from Skirrid about 1:45 and immediately hit a thermal with 2 other gliders. Those 2 gliders moved ahead earlier than me onto the Sugarloaf. I took a little longer to follow them, and they were already a little bit ahead and further above. They then bridged onto Magic, where I'd taken off in the morning, and again I was a little bit behind them. By the time I reached Magic, they were climbing away and there was absolutely nothing there for me at all. I stayed around for a little bit, trying to find any ridge lift that I could, but there was absolutely nothing there for me. So I followed the ridge round behind Magic, and I came back over the ridge, almost back to the campsite where I left that morning, just 100 meters above the height of the hill. Gliding into the valley thinking that I've got such a massive height to get back on track, suddenly my Vario went mad, and I got a strong, solid climb 2 to 3 meters per second all the way up to the highest point of the flight at 1,150 meters. From there was high land stretching all the way south towards the next turn point. I hugged the land, facing into wind. Using a little bit of speed bar, I pushed all the way along, landing just at the bottom of the next turn point. Yes! I made it all the way. Landing at the 5th turn point. I didn't think I was going to make it. I was hanging on for dear life from Skirrid. Punchy climbs just up to 1,000 meters. Then everyone I was flying with buggered off ahead of me, and I got to Magic just as everyone else was taking off, and there was absolutely nothing there. And I just came over the back with like 100 meters above, and was going down into the valley, way off course, basically back at the campsite. But in the lee, I got this beautiful climb right the way up to 1,150 meters. And I've just sat along this ridge right the way up to the ridge line here that goes up to the next turn point. Absolutely insane. I'm still shaking. I hiked up to the turn point to get a photo with Alistair and the team. It's hot. From the Torryfold turn point, I took a quick glide across the reservoir into the Talibont Valley. So, I made it. That was the turn point up there. The wind has come really onto the end of the ridge rather than being able to soar, and the thermal seemed to have died out. So I made the decision to cut upwind so I get a bit of lift off the ridge, make it across the lake with loads of height to spare, and I landed in the furthest possible field before the forest starts all the way up this way. Here's my gourmet dinner. This year, I wanted to make sure I didn't run out of water, so I brought with me this, which I had on my round the world cycle trip, to make sure that I can drink this without getting sick. So time to top up for the night. So I'm going to fill up all 3 litres. It's full. Oh, so good. Totally refreshed. dark forest. Just keep on walking. Keep on walking. One foot in front of the other. Spooky forest. In the spooky forest. I just bushwhacked through the forest, collected most of the forest along with me, but finally I'm out in the open. I think I might get up there and camp on top, even though I usually try to camp down low because it's much calmer and warmer. Needs must. I've still got a good hour and a half, and I just come out of the forest and there's a path literally 10 meters away that I seem to have missed. One last climb of the day. I made it, day one. 69 kilometers flying and hiking. 5,000 calories, a bunch of gels and snacks, and one of the best flights that I've ever flown. Super chuffed, but also super tired. The sun's setting behind me. I'm up here on Talibont, ready for a glide down tomorrow morning. Charging my devices, and this is my dinner for tonight. Protein bar and another sandwich. I've got luxury accommodation this year compared to sleeping in the wing last year. Loads of space. Enough room under the side here for my paraglider because it might rain tomorrow morning. And all my other stuff is in the vestibule on this side. Morning. I had quite a warm night. The only thing was, as expected, it was quite windy for the core of the night. I forgot earplugs, and the rustling of the material, especially against the grass, kept me awake a little bit. But it died off about 4 AM. I got 4 hours sleep earlier in the night and a few hours good sleep later in the night. So still got a little while, an hour or so, until the start of the window for today. There we go, clock's turned 8 and I'm heading off to the launch. It's a nice, calm, relaxing morning because first launch is at 8:30. I just need to go about 500 meters around to the easterly point. I should have loads of time to get there, lay out all the kit, and then when the clock strikes past, I can pop off the hill. I'm up here. Got 15 minutes until launch opens, first launch of the day. The wind is pretty much fully south, is it? So I want to go southeast that way, so I'm going to have to launch a little bit into wind and then ping off back there, see if I want to go over this little knoll, see if I make it. Otherwise I might just power straight towards where I want to go. For my first flight of the day, I just about made it over the high ground ahead of me before having a fantastic glide right across the valley, landing in a campsite while everyone was eating breakfast. I just had an amazing first flight of the day. I got much further than I ever expected to. Gliding out of the valley, I got 20 to 30 20 or 30 to 1 glide ratio on my chili, and made it all the way across the river into a campsite where I landed nicely, which gave me good access to the road, didn't have to climb over any fences or gates. And now I've just got about an hour up to this little tump up here. Oh, flapping. Something I brought this year is maps on the watch, which is pretty interesting way to not have to keep pulling the phone out of the pocket. From my landing site, I tracked the shortest route across roads and footpaths to get me to the next launch. There's my launch site, 4k away. Walking up to penultimate launch. I'm hoping to bridge to the last turn point. Definitely one thing I've learned from this is to pack more fuel. Fueled very well yesterday, using a lot of gels, but just not enough food at all. We have a glider here, interesting choice. They've taken off away from the next turn point, which is interesting. I can sort of see the logic a little bit with the wind coming up this valley here, but it should be easterly, so it should be on the other side. We'll see. It looks like they're top landing, slope landing, so I'll probably walk past them. There's birds circling just about. That's the final turn point, and then the campsite is down there. There's no question now that I'm going to finish. The only question is, am I going to be gliding into goal or hiking into goal? I'm in a race against the thunderstorms. I tried to forward launch from where I was, but the wing got smacked out of the air with a tailwind. So I moved around the slope a little bit to get a more favourable wind to launch and glide across to the back of the next turn point. And as simple as I hoped, that's the ridge I was on a second ago. Completely opposite to forecast. It had a backwind coming around the end of the ridge there. Luckily I managed to move around to a little knobble so I could do a launch into wind. But that means I made it very low onto this turn point. The turn point is up there. See which side they drop. There's a vault circling above the final turn point. This final climb has been the toughest bit so far. I've just got 50 meters to go vertically. Destroyed. I'm destroyed. I made it. I'm out of water, I'm out of food, but I'm up on the top of the hill. There's a beautiful wind coming up. I've got one glide to go and half an hour to do it into goal. I took the final glide, making some turns over the campsite before landing right between the flags and fulfilling my goal of reaching the finish this year. Thanks to Ali and all of the supporters who helped make this such an amazing race. Thanks to Henry George for the professional photos, and thanks to Ashton for this video of me reaching goal. Just like last year, I've learnt so much this year, and I'm super excited to come back for Dragon 2025. I made it. Last one to fly into goal, and I'm absolutely ruined. I'm going to pack up my kit, but I don't have much energy to do it. Get some food first and then do it. A few hours till curry. I'm happy with myself. I hit my goal of reaching the end, of actually finishing. Congratulations to Dougie Swanson-Lowe, the winner, and all of the other participants. This year I placed 13th overall, with around 19 people out of the 60 actually finishing. I had the curry, packed up, and got home for some rest. See you next year.